This is Mike Price, Senior Editor of NGWA's Waterwell Journal, and today I'm speaking with Tom Downey, CWD/PI, President and CEO of Downey Drilling, Inc. in Lexington, Nebraska. Downey served as President of NGWA in 2006 and received the Ross L. Oliver Award for Outstanding Contributions to the Groundwater Industry in 2012. With May's Waterwell Journal covering irrigation and groundwater, we thought it would be a good time to catch up with Tom, who has drilled irrigation wells for 25 years and been in the waterwell industry for 40 years. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for your time.
You bet, Mike. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Well, let's start with how things have been for you the last few years drilling irrigation wells, and what do you think the future might hold?
The last few years, probably the last 3 years, has been affected by weather and crop prices, which typically drives our business. Even though we're in areas where there is little, if any, new development. By new development, I mean new irrigation wells on new ground that has been converted from dry land to irrigated. So you know, even back in the day, I had a gentleman who owned a large company during the development times here in Nebraska, and he told me a long time ago, before moratoriums and limited development or no development, he said, you know, what drives our business is commodity prices and weather, and I think that holds true today. Here in the Nebraska area, the last say 3 years has been relatively wet. We came off the drought time of 12, 13, 14, maybe a little bit 11, 12, 13, 14. And we had the drought in the eastern corn belt that drove prices up, along with the ethanol type things. And then, of course, trade is a big deal, international trade. We can talk about that a little bit later. But those types of things drive our business. So it was dry. Commodity prices went up, mainly because it was dry, because in the eastern corn belt, there's no irrigation. And their yields went down. And so when we had $6-7 plus corn, and soybeans were, I think, in the 13-14 range. I'm not a marketing person, but nonetheless, that drove our business. And then there were some areas with the high crop prices in the east central part of Nebraska that hadn't been developed before. Good crop ground, but they get a little more rain, and they were odd pieces of ground, and by odd I mean not a full quarter section. So 20 years ago, if you had a piece of ground that wouldn't accommodate almost a full pivot to go clear around, people didn't even consider drilling wells. Well, when commodity prices went up, land values went up, it was dry, then pretty soon we're putting irrigation wells on places where nobody even thought about putting a pivot that might wipe and catch 60 acres or 80 acres or whatever. So that probably won't happen again. That area, we drilled a lot of wells in that area, as did other contractors. So the bottom line is the tillable, developed ground, or ground that could be developed, is already developed. So we're in a replacement phase based on age of the wells, and more than that, we're into a commodity price, weather-driven business. It doesn't matter whether. So the more they use the wells, the more work we're going to have, whether it's on pumps or replacement wells. They stress them. So we're in a wet period, as a lot of people probably seen on the news with the floods and everything, which is east of here. We're in an extremely wet period. Hopefully, business-wise, you know, it'll moderate. We'd rather see moderation in anything, crop
Mm-hmm.
prices. If we could get that corn price up around $4.50, $5 a bushel, if we could have our producers in this area of the state, an average year would be say 1,000 hours of running time on a system, on a well and a system, then we get
Okay.
back more into a moderate thing. And so we during the dry years and the high commodity prices, we saw that point in time, which rivaled development times in the 60s and 70s. Some people told me. Obviously, I was in high school then. I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's turned the page and we're on the other side of the coin. Now, having said all that, we've been able to in our business been able to maintain revenue by expansion and some other things, and so. But the bottom line in irrigated agriculture, at least in our part of the country, which is we cover just about. We're licensed in every state that's over the top of the Ogallala High Plains Aquifer. It's commodity prices and weather. That's what's driving it. And then we're in a phase where those wells that were drilled back in the 60s and 70s are old enough they're needing to be replaced. So that's what I see in our business right now.
Okay. That's a great synopsis of how things currently are. Appreciate it. If a contractor is considering adding irrigation wells to their line of service, how would you advise them in preparing for it?
Well, irrigation, by our standards, a way of doing things out here in the corn belt and the crops where we have pivots and all the large scale, I guess, irrigation. Number one, it takes a lot of money. The capital investment, if you're into residential type wells, stuff like that, maybe even occasional irrigation well to irrigate grass or something. We drill a much larger diameter hole, typically 28 to 30 inch, 16 inch or larger casing, gravel packed well. Since we're unconsolidated, our method is flooded reverse. The depths range from 300 feet to almost 1,000, depending on what area we're in. It takes a lot of capital for equipment, larger equipment, and more vehicles, more crews. We run round the clock while we're drilling, and so that's the big thing. And then I mentioned crews. What seems to be the underlying issue in our industry, and maybe any trade industry, from what I'm hearing, is our labor situation and skilled labor. And so I don't know, for someone looking into, and I don't want to paint a bad picture here, but someone looking into the expansion of large-scale irrigation contracting, I don't know what would be worse, the labor end of it or the capital outlay. For us, we can buy all the iron we want. That's not an issue. We can come up with the money to buy iron. The issue is the labor force, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay. And what would you say are the biggest difference between drilling an irrigation well versus a residential well?
Well, the biggest difference, at least for us, is a residential well is typically 5 inch. Most of the stuff we set up out here now with the acreages and whatnot are 20, 25 gallon a minute with anywhere from a 1 horse to 5 horse pump with a variable frequency drive and all that. The irrigation wells, again, we're drilling a bigger hole. We're going with 16 inch casing. Some of them are a little bit smaller. We're going with higher horsepower. Just takes a lot of bigger equipment. There's probably there's more time spent on the engineering side of irrigation, obviously, because it's a lot more money, and you want to get it right. And then there's other things to talk to the customer about, whether what they're looking for gallons and pressure on a pivot or a subsurface drip system or whatever system, golf course or whatever you're looking at. So there's engineering involved in the pump side, and then course, there many times, at least here in the row crop area, then we decide whether to go with a line shaft turbine. Is it electric or power unit? If it's electric, you got choice between a line shaft turbine, maybe a submersible, and then if they run corner systems, which is a corner can get most of 160 acres, not all of it. But then when the corner system swings out, it's more water. When it swings in, it's less water. Then you're going to have pressure spikes, flow rates change, and then also there's flow variable flow sprinkler packages depending on where the sprinkler is in the field, and they can vary the flow on each span. So there's a lot of engineering that goes into that part of it. And then we got several golf courses too. Obviously, there's engineering on that as well.
Do you do the engineering yourself on the pump side of things?
Yes. Yeah, we do. We have programs, and then we have application people that also have other jobs. But yeah, we do all of that. Typically, we have whether it's a distributor or manufacturer, check our numbers, make sure we're figuring it right based on whatever brand or model of pump we're using. But yeah, and that's part of the business that I really like, and I've got three other people that really enjoy that too as well. So.